Hey friends, you've reached Katy's podcast, and it's the week of Halloween, so we're gonna end this spooktacular with a slew of scary stories. Today we have two special guests, so before we get into it, let's all introduce ourselves. I'm Katy May, and I am a wolf in sheep's clothing.
I am Jake, and I am a ghost.
I'm Leah. I have bloody eyes.
Oh, bloody eyes, Leah.
Oh, bloody eyes Shanahan. That's what they've always called it.
I'm David, and I'm Robert Smith. If it worked in high school, it didn't work so much now, which I'm guessing is also the same with Robert Smith. So,
I'm Reggie, and I'm the Void.
I was gonna say I can't see you at all.
I'm invisible.
Okay, I see your zipper.
Oh. Hold up. I'm gonna turn these lights off. I'm just... Ah, come on. Now I'm just a floating set of hands.
Oh, I love that. Tremendous.
Hello.
You're like two System of a Down records next to each other.
Amy, do you want to introduce yourself real quick?
Oh, hi. Yeah, I am a fairy woods witch, and this is my beautiful pet who will be sitting in with us today. And his name is Lucy. He will be deadly quiet, I swear.
I love it. All right. Well, today's mission is to scare the frick out of everybody. Okay? I was thinking maybe we could have a contest and, for the viewers, whoever has the scariest story today, just cast a vote, and then we'll do something special around Thanksgiving.
You're gonna get an open tub of stuffing left on your doorstep.
like 2.5 weeks after Thanksgiving.
I can start if you want. Here's a story from back in the dorms. When I was living in the valleys at Western Michigan University, I walked out to Smokers Island and I saw a kid that was just drenched in sweat. And I asked him what happened, and he said as follows. He had a rough night. He had been drinking a lot the night before, so he decided that he was going to take a nap around like 4 or so. He was passed out in his dorm room, and all of a sudden he heard these really loud noises, and it sounded like a train screeching to a halt. And he woke up and covered his ears, and he looked in the corner, and out of the corner a shadow formed. It was like a human-esque form. It was like right behind his microwave. It like turned and kind of looked at him and was like, "Where are the breadsticks?" And the kid was like, the cafeteria. And then the apparition was like, "Thanks," and then dissolved back into the wall, and the train sounds came back, and he immediately ran outside to smoke a cigarette. And that's where I found him. The end.
Tremendous.
Thank you. Who thinks that they can top that?
So yeah, I mean, I've got some weird real stories. I was under the impression this would perhaps be scary stories to tell around the campfire type stories. So I've got some of those too. Those might be more entertaining.
Whatever you feel like sharing would be much appreciated. I'm smiling under the mask.
All right. So I was going to tell a spooky story, an urban legend that many people have heard, but instead I'll flip the script and I'll tell a really fucking weird story that happened to me a couple years ago that still fucks me up. Still, like I sought a psychic out after this. This is how much it fucked me up.
Fuck yes.
So this would have been about 2 years ago. I was with my ex living in his house on Westnedge Hill, which a lot of weird shit happened at that house. Like when I first walked into it for the first time, I was like, this is not that chill. There's some weird shit going on here. But this particular night, Evans and I had been hanging out. It was just the two of us. We're drinking, having a good time. And I don't even really know how to explain this because it just was. So all of a sudden we were hanging out. It was this big bald dude, and there was a woman, and like the memory of the woman has completely dissipated, except for that I fucking know there was a woman there. But yeah, just like yucking it up, having a fucking good time. I specifically remember this dude who's just like this big bald dude. And then all of a sudden it was just Evans and I in the kitchen, and I just kind of like snapped to and was like, that didn't just happen. I was like, nobody was here. Like, this didn't just happen. Like, nobody ever fucking came in the house. Like, what the fuck? And I don't know, we had been drinking. I was just like, oh, we're having a good time, and carried on with the night. Like, it fucked me up enough that I was like, I have to like retain this. Like, I have to like seriously think about this. The next morning I texted him, he went to work, and I was like, hey, like, what do you remember from last night? And the only thing he remembered was me saying, this didn't just happen. So still real fucked up over that. Still no idea. Like, there was no memory of anybody coming to the house. Like, these weren't people we knew. And then it was just gone. And like I said, like, I know there was a woman. She dissipated immediately. I think the only reason I can remember this bald dude is I was like so like holding on to this. So yeah, that's a really fucked up thing that happened to me. And I saw a psychic out after about it, which she told me that it was like I was in 2 dimensions at once. Like, I don't know. She went into a whole different thing about it. I don't know if it was a fucking ghost thing. I don't know if it was just like, I don't know. I have a fucking lesion on my brain that caused me to hallucinate. I don't fucking know, but yeah, still fucked up over that one. So yeah.
Did they say anything?
Yeah, no, like, we were having a good time. Like, we were like partying and hanging out, and like I remember this dude like having his arm around Evans, and Evans was a small guy, so he was like this huge dude, and like, yeah, like it was just like a good time. And then like that, it was just like done. But the thing that's weird about that house too is, so there's this screened in porch, and I would always hang out there and like smoke cigarettes, whatever, by myself. And multiple times I remember like that same kind of feeling, like that just like kind of like snapping to feeling, and being like, oh, like having felt that I was talking to someone, and then realizing that I was alone and had been alone the entire time. So yeah.
That's creepy as fuck.
You know, that reminds me of, there is a particular kind of fairy that's supposed to be responsible for when you forget what you were looking for in another room, when you pass the threshold of the room. Totally reminds me of that like idea, like they just like interact with you, get what they need from you, and then erase your memory, and that's why you forget while you're there.
What dicks.
Yeah, there's also the thing with the Fae where it's like, if you find their like little Fae village or whatever, don't go in for fun, even though they want you to come in with fun. And because then you're just like trapped forever.
I'm gonna go in and bang the pots together and be like, take me now.
That sounds like our cat.
Well, I've heard that like the devil, you can tell that it's the devil because he wears big red shoes. And usually there are little fairies around that'll like lure you in. And if you go and hang out with the devil, then 100 years will pass while it feels like only a few hours. And everyone you know and love will be dead.
Yeah, I feel like that's supposed to be the same thing with the Fae. Like, if you get in, like, time will pass in the real world, but no time will pass there. And another thing with the devil, and I guess like demons in general, like those type of entities, is that and how you're supposed to be able to tell them apart from a ghost is that they can't have completely human features. So even if they come across mostly human, they'll have to have like maybe some horns, or maybe like some hooves, or some kind of tell. So, you know, if you think you're just seeing a normal ghost, maybe not. You gotta check it out a little closer.
Yeah, I don't fucks with Ouija boards.
Don't fucks with those. Asking for trouble.
I'm not convinced that you're here, Katy.
I know, that's what I said. I was like, is that actually you, or just propped up?
Or maybe you're just like sitting behind this mat like it's a little puppet, and you're just shaking it a little bit with your hand whenever you talk.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know what you're talking about.
I hate everything that's happening.
You're on.
I hated that.
Then I'm going to tell y'all my super spooky family story now. So my Aunt Sissy owns this house down south, and it's called the Big House because it's like the biggest house in this small town called Drew, Mississippi. And it's haunted, like legitimately haunted. The house was built in 1917, and it was like a passion piece of this couple, the Yeagers. They were super in love, and they built this huge house with a bunch of rooms in it and stuff. And then Mr. Yeager ended up having a wandering eye, and he left, and he ran off with like some other woman. Drew is like only a few miles away from Mississippi's state penitentiary, and Mrs. Yeager was like very paranoid that somebody would get out and like break into the house. So she put bars on like all the doors and windows and stuff. And one day she went to the store and she forgot to lock her kitchen door. It happened that 3 convicts broke out of the prison that day. They went around just checking to see if there were any doors unlocked, and they found hers, and they went and they hung out in the attic. She came home from the store. She went about her day to day. She like did chores, she cooked dinner, and then she got ready for bed. She heard some rustling in the kitchen around midnight, and she went down like this back staircase to go and see what was going on. And when she saw the 3 men, she let out a gasp that was loud enough that they heard her. So they like dragged her by her hair to the basement. One of them like beat her up, and then another one decapitated her, and they brought her head up to show the last guy. And the whole time blood was like trickling out of her neck onto the stairs. And they left the head there, and she wasn't found for many weeks. So fast forward, the house is haunted as fuck. Like, you can find clumps of ladies' hair all over the house. It just shows up. Sometimes you can hear her crying. But what's the spookiest thing is that blood trail that was left from the basement on the way up to the kitchen from like her head or whatever, those blood stains are still there. Like, they paint over them, the blood stains come back. They like replace the wood, the blood stains come back. It's like that type of thing.
Ooh.
Super spooky.
Ooh.
It's scary. I mean, I was just trying to think of witty things to say during it, and then it got very real. So I stopped trying to think of things to say.
It's a pretty scary story.
Yeah.
Yeah. I really like to be scared. My grandma used to play this game with us when we were growing up called The Getter. And I think I've told you guys about it before, but it was like, we would like beg her to play it, and she'd be like, no, I don't want to play it, I don't want to play it. And then all of a sudden she'd be like, and then she'd be the getter, and then we would run away from her, and then she would chase after us, and she would like scratch on the door and like put her hands under the door. And then, yeah, we love that game.
That's cute as fuck. I play the exact same game with my cats.
Well, Amie, you have some local histories. You've got a good story about a local haunt. Would you mind sharing that with us?
Sure. So, y'all are familiar with the Henderson Castle up on West Main. My grandma and I got to spend a night in there because my dad at the time knew one of the people who owned it. His name was Bob, which I believe that if you look up, you can see him as listed as one of the previous owners. We got to do like a tour and stuff, and we got to stay the night. We got told a little bit about the history, and I looked some of it up too, and some of it I misremembered a little bit, but most of it was still true. So Frank Henderson had his fortune that he used to build the Henderson Castle from making like ritual swords, like ceremonial ritual swords for like fraternities and secret societies, and moved into making military regalia and uniforms for like the Freemasons and stuff. So he had ties to like secret societies and stuff like that when Bob was telling us about it, because you can't really find a whole lot about that other than he made stuff for them. But Bob was telling us that there was definitely some meetings and stuff that happened in that house with the Freemasons, and it's like definitely like not far-fetched to think that there was some sort of like cult happenings in there. Me and my grandma stayed the night there, and we got to walk around, and we actually were in the upstairs. They have like a big like dance hall upstairs, and there's like an original organ and stuff in there and everything. We were talking about it, and we were like poking at the organ and stuff, and the door all the way on the other side just like slammed closed while we were talking about there being like hauntings and stuff in there. And that was the only thing that we really witnessed in there, but there's definitely like all kinds of weird architecture in there. The walls are made of like animal hide, which is why they don't put any of the art or anything directly onto the walls, is because they're preserving just like these leather hide coverings on the wall that are original. I had thought that Bob had said that he had built it for his mistress, but he really did just build it for him and his wife and his family. But then he died like 4 years after they finished it. And then his wife died, and they specifically wanted to be buried in the graveyard across the street. So actually, if you go to their grave and you look over at Westnedge Hill, you can see the Henderson Castle directly in front of where you're standing in their graves.
The Masons definitely do some like weird occult stuff sometimes. I mean, it's like easy to act like my grandpa was a Mason and he was just in it for the free beer and the secret handshake, but they did some weird shit. And they have death robes
that Frank Henderson made for them.
There's this house just over on Park Street, actually, called the Hopkins House, that was built in 1896 by David Hopkins for his son George. He died there in 33 in the upstairs master bedroom. His wife died there in like 1905 in the servants' quarters. Since then, they've been spotted, well, not really spotted, but heard repeatedly. Like throughout the night, people are rushing up and down the stairs. They hear doors slamming and opening and all this stuff. It's been a rental property for a really long time. In the time that it's been a rental property, the police have been called on suspected home invasion 33 times. And every time they can't find anyone in the house. Yeah, so in 2014, like husband and wife paranormal investigation couple came to check the place out. And they stayed there for like 48 hours. And while they were checking out the attic, they heard a voice that said, "Buy and fix." So 14 months later, they bought the house and have been renovating it, and they're slowly turning it into a bed and breakfast. So there's a third ghost too. Apparently in the past, like in the year since they bought it, over 20 people had spotted a elderly man sitting in the upstairs window. And they've had a couple psychics in there that were unaffiliated that they've worked with over time, and both were pointing to this name, Asa. They went back through all the census data, and they found that there was a butler named Asa that lived about 4 blocks away from them. So I think this might be the person that people keep repeatedly seeing in that window. I really want to go drive because it's just down the road and see if I can see anyone in the upstairs window.
Like the whole thing with ghosts is that they're basically just like stuck here and they have unfinished business or whatever. So with that story, I'm like, this poor butler, is he just stuck here until all of the renovations are done with this house, until this house is fixed? He's like, buy and fix this house. It needs new storm windows.
It feels like it's a story that happens after you decide you're going to open a bed and breakfast.
Or ghosts can be bound to possessions too. So maybe the butler left something there and then his energy is still just in the house.
Well, that's okay. So that's a related thing because the Civic Theater used to be at Chenery, and they had this ghost. What was her name?
It might be easier to see your notes if your light was on.
Well, no, it's just this Batman mask. All right, so Thelma Merritt's.
You have a Batman mask on?
You can't
a Batman mask on.
I can't see it, yeah.
I'm going to be spooky Batman.
That is not spooky Batman. That is very sexy Batman.
Yeah. The lipstick. What do you mean?
But Thelma Merritt's, who was believed to be part of the production crew way back in the early Civic days. She supposedly jumped off of the prop stage and fell to her death and then has been just haunting the place. But she followed the cast, they say, from the Chenery to the new Civic building when they built it.
It's like crazy because people die in theaters kind of often.
Every theater has some kind of haunting situation. Something terrible always happens.
State Theater has one. Apparently there's often like a white mist, and now I think it was Civic again that they keep getting no, it was the State where they would see a woman on the stage, and like the camera that was pointing at the stage on the monitors upstairs, they would see somebody down there on the stage often.
I'm so incredibly distracted now, knowing that all Batman needed was just a nice red lip.
Oh, I have a weird thing that so my sister's friend, her and her husband just bought a house, and my sister's been telling me all these crazy stories because she's like, you need to go there, like they need to stage this place, like all this weird shit's happening. So I was over at my sister's house last night, and I guess they were down like rooting around in the basement, found this big ass chest, like a big old fucking like treasure chest essentially, and they opened it up and it's full of ashes.
Ah,
Neat.
Full of ashes. Well, they might as well just sell the house straight away.
yeah.
Whatever they opened with that, like, and also if they've been having all these creepy experiences, why would they then go searching for shit, find a big old treasure chest, and think that's a good thing to open? So I'm like, well, whatever happens now, I mean, that's on you guys.
I just saw a movie that was like that called The Remains, and like everybody dies.
Well, yeah. Well, everything about this situation is such the setup for a horror movie. Like, it's this young couple that just buys a house, the wife's pregnant. Like, I'm like, what are you doing? I don't know. Can't be helped, I guess. At this point, they've already opened the treasure chest, so.
Well, Reggie, you had a story that was like pretty scary because it was so brutal, right?
So, I don't know what's scarier than an angry old white guy. What was it, back in the 20s or something, in a town called Bath, which is like 20 miles or so north of Lansing. There was like some guy that was on the school board, and he was all hard to deal with, and like, you know, like an old white guy. Don't want to bend for nobody.
Old white men are notoriously bad benders.
He hoarded a whole lot of TNT and blew up a school with like kids in it and everything. Yeah, old white guys are scary.
Yeah.
Fuck.
Those things are so scary. Not to get too real on y'all, but have you ever heard of Brenda Spencer?
No.
Mm-mm.
No.
I think it was January 29th, like 1978 or something. Brenda Spencer shot up an elementary school. And her story was really crazy because, like, she had been suffering from something for a long time. And she had been, like, treated by a psychiatrist that told her family that she needed to be, like, institutionalized to work on things. And she wanted that. But her dad was like, no, because he was too proud and he wouldn't put her on medication for a really long time. And on her 16th birthday, it was either her 14th or her 16th birthday, she wanted a camera so that she could get into photography. But her dad got her a gun with 50 bullets.
Tomato.
They both shoot.
When they asked her why she shot up the school, she said, I hate Mondays, and I wanted to liven it up a little bit.
Spicy
Garfield.
Garfield. Yeah. Garfield with a gun. God.
Does anyone else have any bone-chilling tales?
So kind of unrelated and kind of funny. A few years back, probably like closer to like 10 years ago, when I was still living in Battle Creek, some friends and I, they were pretty certain that the Michigan Dog Man was like in these woods or some shit. You know, we'd go into the woods and walk around at night, just like no flashlights or fucking anything, just blunts, you know, as you do. So we're walking around and like, yeah, fucking sure enough, something's like going around us, just making this like fucking like terrifying fucking sound. And we're just like, okay, we gotta turn back, go back to the fucking car. Like, fuck this shit. So it turns out it was a fox, and we were probably close to where its babies were, and it was not happy.
I saw a hawk try to take down a squirrel the other day. It was the most metal. He didn't get it somehow, but it's pretty cool. Have you heard about the melon heads? That's supposed to be like specific to Michigan. In high school, some friends and I went to scope it out, and I think we were just like, I don't know, we're definitely in the middle of fucking nowhere. Who knows if where we were is supposed to actually be where the melon heads were. Didn't find any, but it was scary nonetheless. I mean, walk around the woods.
What the fuck are the melon heads?
Oh, so it's basically just like this incestuous family, like with hydrocephalic heads that just live off the land in the woods somewhere in Michigan. They've just been doing their own thing for a long time. If ever you've seen the X-Files episode Home, I imagine it's similar to that, but they don't want none of what we have to offer.
This sounds like just the Michigan militia.
Oh!
I was gonna say this actually
Don't
sounds like a
get
couple of customers that come into the scrapyard pretty regularly.
It's actually just Ted Nugent's house.
Yeah.
Have any of you ever been to Holton, Michigan? It's out by like Twin Lakes, sort of north of Muskegon. Yeah, I remember that's where I first heard that story because a lot of people in that town claim they live like right there. Like they'll be like, "Oh, you're talking about so and so," and it's like, "What do you?"
In Melonhead territory they live?
Yeah. They claim that family lives out there near this. They saw the house. It was a real creepy house because it had a sign on the they had this wood garage that wasn't like finished or stained or anything, and there was cardboard taped over the windows that somebody wrote in Sharpie "free daycare," and you couldn't see inside at all.
That's better than a beware of dogs sign for sure.
Yeah, definitely. Do not trespass on those properties.
The Melonhead story always reminds me of like Sawney Bean and stuff from Scotland, where it was like this guy was born to a family of ditch diggers, and he said that he didn't want to be a ditch digger, so he took another maiden into a cave in the woods, and then from there they made 8 babies, and then the 8 babies made 8 more babies with each other, and then so on and so forth until there were 48 of them living in this cave, and they were like all crazy looking, and they were like cannibals, and they would attack people that went through the woods. And then, like, the people would find body parts washing up on the shore and just assume that there had been some type of shipwreck or something. Apparently, a couple was going from a party in the town back to their cabin somewhere else, and they got attacked, and the woman was killed, and the man came back to town, and everyone went into the woods with pitchforks, and they couldn't find this family. They passed by the cave, and they thought it was uninhabitable, and when they finally explored it, it was like a mile deep. Where they were all living, there were like body parts everywhere all over the walls. They were like curing them like ham and salami. But I have heard, because like I asked about it, and a lot of people in Scotland think that that is just some really racist folklore from Great Britain to scare people away from the Highland people. But it's pretty spooky. They have a similar story in Ireland too. I read a book.
There was Outriver Road. There's this house that's been abandoned since like 1913 or something. And we we broke in one night. Like the living room floor was all caved in and the ceilings were mostly caved in. And we were just getting dive bombed with birds. We eventually got through to the basement and got like halfway down. And there were these neatly stacked piles of like dead raccoons and rodents and stuff like that were just kind of nicely piled up, and this incredibly loud buzzing sound, and we couldn't figure out what that was. So we just ended up leaving, and as we left, we saw that the entire right wall was covered in termites, so that explained the buzzing sound. And as we got outside, we looked back at the house, and a badger hulked across the doorway, so that was the dead animals. It all made sense. Well, I drove by it like a few years later, and it is a house again, which I don't understand how that could possibly, like, there were literally holes in the floor of every room that went to the next room.
I don't know. Have y'all heard about the recent Mothman sightings in the Lake Michigan area?
No.
What? Mothman made his way
Yeah.
up here?
No?
Yeah.
Somebody just sent me an article recently because this happened to somebody that she knows, but apparently just recently in the Chicago airport, there was a very similar to Mothman creature that was sighted. A woman was coming out of the USPS station in the airport at O'Hare. She was all alone. She's walking to her car and she sees what appears to be a really tall man with a trench coat on the other side of the parking lot. She didn't really pay attention because she's used to there just being other coworkers leaving sometimes. And she unlocked her car, and when she unlocked her car, she's got the automatic headlights that turn on and just shined on this thing that turned around and had bright red eyes and apparently 10 to 12-foot wings, which it started to run at her and then spread its wings and took off over her. And this was like a few days ago.
So she got flexed on by a giant winged thing?
Basically, she said she dove into her car and took off and even made like a police report about it, where there's an official police report where they're asking her about it. And she was like, I didn't care where it flew over me and I was done.
Damn.
So are Mothman's wings supposed to actually be moth wings? Because moths basically just dissolve like any water, and I feel like they're fucking done.
Well, if you look at all of the Mothman sightings, they're all like vague about exactly what's going on. Like it's always just like big dark wings.
Yeah.
That's what they should call them. My name's Big Dark Wings.
Maybe he's just a nice man asking for directions and nobody's staying long enough to let him know.
David doesn't agree with me on this, but like a few years ago when I was riding my bike home, it was a bulk garbage day, and I found this weird picture, and it was like a framed picture of a family, and it was like a dad who looked a lot like Jim Jones if he had like walked away from Jonestown, and then two little kids, and the eyes were like all whited out on them, and the thing was printed off on like newspaper.
Yeah, it was like super blown up newspaper that like had like the dots, but the dots were huge because
It had
it was super
bad
blown up.
energy about it. Like I ended up
Yeah,
giving
that's
it
wrong.
away. Yeah, it was bad. It's the reason that it was
Give it
being
to
thrown
Morgan, I
away.
think.
And then I was just like, oh, this should come to my house.
It's crazy how often I see people's family portraits just fucking tossed out with bulk trash. People are moving, they're like, I'm not taking this with me. It's always children, it's weird.
Like, oh, Mima's dead now anyway.
Has anybody been to the bathroom at the Steak and Shake on Westnedge?
Yes.
Yes.
Work at this
Okay,
on Westnedge when I was in high school.
that would be the worst. Like you walk into there and you are instantly aware of exactly how old you are. It's just like so bright.
That's the true horror age.
Yeah.
Have any of you been to a Ma's Coffee Pot?
Do you say Ma's Coffee Pot?
Yeah, dude. Have you ever been to Ma's Coffee Pot?
Are you fucking kidding me?
No, I'm not. I'm serious. Have you been?
What is that response?
Yes, I've spent many a night in Ma's fucking coffee pot.
Not the place with the really creepy bathroom that's like down.
Oh,
like,
it sure was.
yeah. That's the worst bathroom to ever find yourself in tripping. I haven't, but I imagine it would be because it's a terrifying bathroom sober.
Ma's coffee pot was like the best thing South Haven had to offer.
Does it still exist?
No, it does not. But yeah, that was a very, very that's the creepiest bathroom for
Oh,
sure.
yeah. Oh yeah.
I don't know. I've seen some pretty dodgy bathrooms.
Any house show bathroom, but
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Like the really claustrophobic bathroom at like the one on the first floor that's like an afterthought.
Oh yeah, I'm just mortified someone's gonna bust in and
Break your
I'm just
kneecaps.
there.
It's like it's almost a closet, but then they turned it into a bathroom.
Has anybody ever been into the bathroom at a Fleetwood Diner in Ann Arbor?
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, you have to like descend down into it, and it's like, there's a basement down here?
So that's kind of what the bathroom at Moss Coffee Pot was like, but the one at
That's
Moss
what
was
it
just
reminded
much
me of.
dingier. Yeah.
There was this one nightmare bathroom at this. There's this club called the Ice Pick, and they had the bathrooms. They were made out of like plywood, kind of like stall walls, but they were in the entryway. So, like, you would walk into the entryway, and there would be holes in these walls, and you would just see people peeing, usually inside there, and like terrifying faces painted on each toilet bowl and stuff. It was real gross. Lots of, yeah, like things that could stab you and give you horrible things in every direction.
Katy, I feel like you could put together a whole nother scary story of David talking about creepy shit from the Ice Pick from different episodes.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I mean, anything that has Gigi Allen as part of the past is a horror story. I'm just trying to think if there's any other spooky stories that I want to share before we call it a day. I mean, when my parents were living in Illinois, I had a really weird experience one time, and I still don't really know how to explain it because they maintain their innocence in this. My parents went to go and look at a house because they were interested in buying, and we were just renting this place, and I was like, I'm going to stay home. And I decided that I was going to rock out on my synthesizer with my headphones on in the basement, and I saw the door to the basement open and close, so I thought my parents were home. And I like ran upstairs to see what's up. Nobody was there, but the like bathroom light was on and it hadn't been on before. And I was like, whatever. So I went back downstairs, put the headphones back on and continued playing. And then I saw like a shadow form like behind me. Like it was like coming over the keyboard and stuff. That tripped me out because I was like in the corner where nothing else could be. So I like hung out outside until my family came home. And they were like, you're crazy. And I'm like, this place is fucking haunted. Let's move. And we did. Well, hey, thanks for joining us this week and listening to our spooky stories and getting ready for this awesome Halloween that is definitely a thing. We're going to let you go, but before we do, let's all say something good that's happened in the last week that we're really stoked about.
Oh, I carved pumpkins yesterday.
It was also your birthday.
It was also
I
my
mean,
birthday.
Oh my gosh, happy belated birthday.
Hey, happy
Arguably
belated
the
birthday.
bigger story than the pumpkins.
I also carved pumpkins recently. One of my friends is doing a carve 100 pumpkins challenge for himself just because he wants to. Bought us all pumpkins, and me and him and two of my other friends got to carve pumpkins, and one of them lives in Chicago, so that was really nice that we all got to get together and carve pumpkins.
Yeah, that is really nice.
That's cool.
We didn't get any pumpkins, but Katie and I went to a cider farm
Orchard?
corn maze
That's
thing.
the time.
Yeah.
We don't
Apple
do these
orchard.
things often.
The place where apples come from.
The store. You went to
The store.
the
We
store.
went to the store. We
Walmart.
went to the Meyer on Westnedge.
Well, I got to go disc golfing with some of my band friends yesterday, and my wife, new Borat. And then this week we are celebrating our 9th anniversary. My wife and I, not the disc golfing crew.
I paid rent. What? No, I didn't. No, I didn't. Never mind. I didn't.
Haven't you been working in your recording studio quite a bit?
Yeah, I'm like close to done-ish.
I was going to say, you've been recording hella tunes, and they sound very good.
Yeah, they're like amazing.
I gotta figure out how to mix vocals. Because they're always really loud or they're really quiet.
EQ. You find the I can talk to you about it later.
It's all it's all trial and error. I got this. It's like, nope, not that one. And then I try it again. It's like, nope, not that one.
After years of wanting a mask custom made from the Timid Rabbit, I finally ordered myself a Timberwolf mask. Yeah.
Nice.
Pretty stoked about it. Does this look pretty good?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whoa, your face is coming off.
Cool.
Thanks. I hate it.
Y'all want to see a really cool trick?
Yeah. Wasn't this an episode of The Simpsons where they just ripped off their skin?
No.
This
I
seems
think
like a
that was
Treehouse
just
of
an
Horror.
intro to one
Yeah.
of the Tree Houses of Horrors.
Yeah.
I'd like to thank our very special guests this week, Leah and Amie. Thank you so much for being here and sharing some spooky stories with us.
Thank you.
Thanks for having me on.
Yeah. Anyone that's watched this that felt especially moved by a story, just say who the narrator of the story was in the comments below, and we'll be doing something special for that special winner around Thanksgiving. And if you share this, well, you might be entered into a raffle and win a whole KNAL bundle perfect for the holidays. Well,
Gonna win a milk jug of stuffing.
happy Halloween, everybody. Bye.
Happy
Be
Halloween.
safe.
Smash the bell.
Wear a mask.